Welcome to the Joy Cometh broadcast. It's a journey process. Yes, grief is a journey process. Now, I am so excited about today's broadcast because as you can see, I have some special guests on the broadcast with me today. And I'm going to allow each one of them to introduce themselves before we get into this subject matter on today. So, Pastor Brewer, introduce yourself.
Yes. Well, great evening, everyone. My name is Reverend Dr. Eric Brewer. I am the pastor of Transform Church Global Ministries. I'm currently located in Upper Marlboro, Maryland, and I'm so glad to be here with my good friend Bishop Hardy. I am also the Phil Ed Director for Howard University School of Divinity. And so, for those who don't know, I am a COVID survivor and I was made a COVID widower. I lost my wife for 21 years. And so, I'm glad to be here today.
Wow. As you can see, he got a lot going on. We're excited about him. Pastor Kenneth Jones, introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Pastor Kenneth Jones from Pastor Practical Living Ministry Church here at Woodbridge, Virginia. Also, Director of Transforming Thoughts Counseling Services, retired military. And now I'm here in the DMV with my fellow pastor, and we're in the same area. Been in ministry for over 47 years. Also a chaplain as well, and as well as a biblical counselor.
Wow. So now you can see I have a wealth of knowledge on this broadcast on today. Not only are we speaking from knowledge, but we are also speaking from revelation and experience. And when I say experience, we all experience the same loss. We all lost our spouse at different times, and they were close in the time span that all of us lost our spouse. And I tell you what, we experienced grief at a whole new level. And so we recognize through this the magnitude of how men grieve. And that's what our broadcast is about today. We want to address, inspire, challenge, and stir men to be open, to be free. We recognize that you grieve too, because we went through this process in the loss of our spouses. And so therefore, on this broadcast today, these qualified men are about to address you and share some of the challenges that we face in helping men navigate through their grieving process. So they're going to share with you for a few minutes. I'll start with Pastor Kenneth Jones, and I'll let him begin to share with you some of the challenges that we face in helping men navigate through their grieving process. So, Kenneth Jones, it's your moment to share.
Okay. Well, my aspect of dealing with grief, all my life, I always thought that I would go first. And I think that's what most men think about.
That's what you
They
think.
think about themselves going first. I would tell my wife sometimes, I say, hey, just don't bring your boyfriend to the funeral, things like that. And we made jokes about it because
Right,
it was all, and basic, we'll talk about this later, but also we planned for me to go.
right,
So that's a thought process now that the man will always go first. And that's the image that I had, coming up. You always see the wife, the widow, over the grave. And I've been in war, I've been in conflict, I've been in a lot of other places, I've been blown up. And so I thought for sure, the chances would be that would go first. And I think most men don't realize that. And like I said, they don't plan for it as well. So one day my wife got the news that she had cancer of the liver. And, we prayed about it. Being a pastor, being a bishop, I'm trusting God, extending my faith out there to believe God
mm-hmm.
that, everything was gonna be okay. We're gonna pray this thing through. And next thing you know, we're in chemotherapy, session. Uh, and then next thing you know, the doctor is saying, no more chemo.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just keep her comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And, for a man, sometimes half the time we don't even know what to do.
Right.
If your wife is crying, and most of you know what I'm talking about, or she's upset, even with no sickness, it's kind of figure out, well, what do I do? What do I do? How to, women are more responsive to that than men. So it was a challenge for me to see that and to experience that, uh, and to watch my spouse, slowly diminish in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
I took it to the, session. I took it to the, therapy. We found, prayer groups and one of the first things I had to deal with that some people actually, I had Job friends.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say Job friends, they would come by the house
Wow.
and they would say, well, obviously you don't have enough faith. Obviously you don't need to be in the ministry. Obviously you don't need to do certain things because you let your wife die.
Mm.
And as men, we are definitely focused on fixing things.
Right.
But this was something I couldn't fix,
Right.
you know. And even as a chaplain, as a pastor, as a counselor, I had all the information, but is nothing brings you through than the experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, dealing with this. I had so many thoughts, in my head, and so many feelings, emotionally, going through, trying to keep my wife comfortable, trying to be supportive, trying to, pray with her and spend that time with her. But there was a lot of time I just felt like, I mean, I didn't, what can I do? I felt helpless. And I remember the night when she was in hospice, they put her in hospice and they asked me to give her the morphine, under the tongue. Now, the chaplain, I know when you're in hospice, you're giving morphine, all you're doing is making her comfortable until she passed.
Mm-hmm.
And that was so much pain, so much anguish that I was going through, and I had to squeeze that into under the tongue. And she felt better, but she also told me, she said, "I'm also ready to go."
So
And
let me ask you this question. For time's sake, what is the biggest challenge you faced in this grieving process after she passed?
the biggest challenge I faced was trying to move from the why to the what next.
Okay.
You can spend so much time caught up in the why
Mm-hmm.
that you're never able to move to the what next.
Wow.
And so if I had to say, well, that's my biggest challenge, other than, not being prepared, is
Right.
from the why to the what next.
So in that process, and that is the biggest challenge. I've dealt with that why factor. I know you have a book that you wrote and you began, after you went through this process. Share your book, share some information about your book and how people can actually purchase the book.
Well, you can purchase the book through Amazon as well. The name of the book is Faith to Live, Faith to Die.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that really comforted me was my wife had faith to live,
Mm-hmm.
faith to die.
Wow.
He said, Ken, I've lived a good life. God has blessed me. God has done things for me.
Uh-huh.
And my life is fulfilling. And I
Wow.
thank God for that. And she said, now I'm also ready to go spend eternity with him. I believe I'm going to spend eternity with him. So
Wow.
even in the midst of my grief, my wife had faith to live and
And
she had
faith.
faith to die.
Wow,
So,
that is
so
powerful.
this book talks about the grief process and
Mm.
how to go through all the different, various, stages of grief. I added a couple of
Wow.
stages.
Wow.
Also talks about what to do when you had to deal. What's some things that you shouldn't say as a chaplain?
Yeah.
Someone is dying or someone is dead.
Yeah.
What you
Yeah.
should not say to people.
Yes.
And
Got
sometimes people say, well, God needed another angel. No, he didn't. And she's not
yeah.
an angel. She's a saint. And
Yeah.
so how about talk about the Job friends? They'll come,
Right.
and how to deal with those people, how to deal with those, with
Yeah.
that mindset. And
Wow.
especially as a pastor, people really judged me
Wow.
on my wife's death. They said that
Wow.
I didn't have enough faith. I didn't have enough,
Yeah.
credentials. I didn't, so all
Wow.
those things. So yeah, so that's what my book
That's
is deals with
challenge.
that, the stage of the grief.
Wow. Well, thank you, Pastor Jones, for that information. And Pastor Brewer, and your journey process. And I want you to share some of the challenges that we face in helping men to navigate navigate, I'm sorry, through the grieving process also. So
Yeah.
now you have the floor,
Yes.
Pastor
Thank,
Brewer.
thank you, Bishop Hardy, and to my new brother, Dr. Jones, Bishop. Both of y'all great men of God. I'm just honored to be here on this wonderful meeting, this virtual meeting, talking about grief to men. And what I discovered with so many men, men do not know how to grieve healthy.
Hmm.
Um, in my loss, people were calling me and suggesting other men who have lost their wives, which led me to start a national widower support group. And
Wow.
so I started ministering to men from around the nation who were in the same boat as I was, and I had to help them as I was helping myself to process this journey called grief.
Hmm.
One thing I learned is that grief is love in another form.
Hmm.
The greater the love, the greater
Right, I agree.
the grief.
That's it. That's it.
And just because a person passes doesn't mean you stop loving them.
Right.
So a lot of men um, trying to figure out how do I love this person who has gone on to be with the Lord.
Hmm.
So what I discovered is that grief is a journey and not a destination.
That's right.
It's not that you just get to a place and one day you wake up, all is well, but
Yes.
it's a journey. It's a journey. Bishop and I, we went through our journeys together. Our late wives passed probably within a week of each other, a week or two within each other.
Right.
So we would call each other every anniversary death date uh,
Hmm.
of that month for the first
Hmm.
year.
Hmm.
And we were in this on this journey together because
Yeah.
there's no timeline for grief.
That's right.
And um, and so one thing about grief is that grief is unpredictable.
That's right.
You don't know when it's going to hit you. Like some days it may seem like it's a little a pebble in a pond, a little ripple in a pond, and some
Hmm.
days it feels like a tsunami. It just
Hmm.
captures everything.
Hmm.
And the reality is because grief is not linear. It's not
Yes.
have or a certain stage you feel today, and the next day you're gonna feel this stage. Some days you feel strong, and some other days you feel like you just can't hold it together. You cry,
That's it.
you can't stop crying.
That's it.
The
That's it.
memories, you hear a
Yeah.
song, you smell a familiar scent, and
Hmm.
that can bring that wave of sadness. One thing, Bishop Hardy and I, we had to walk through this journey, and I remember we was talking about our late wife's clothes. When we gonna take the clothes out the closet because
Right.
everything was the same, we didn't
Right.
change anything. And so we had conversations, even putting the pillows on one side, for me, on one side of the bed.
Hmm.
I felt something like I was in the bed by myself.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so unique because grief is personal.
Right.
So dealing with grief as a man, no two people grieve the same.
There you go.
And the reality is that it's the way we were socialized.
Right.
Unfortunately, when my father lost his mother, my grandmother, I didn't see my father cry at his own mother's funeral.
Mm.
And so I didn't know how to process my own grief. All the men I
Yeah.
saw, they were strong. Men are not supposed to cry. And all that toxic masculinity. But the truth of the matter is, tears are good. You need to cry.
Yeah. There
You
you
need
go.
to emote. You need to say, I'm hurting. You have to be able to communicate how you feel. And
So tell me this. I know for time's sake, I know we can go on and on.
Mhm.
You after you went through this process, and of course, I mean, you did a lot in travel and things like that, and even dealing with people in other nations and stuff. But then you began to pen a book,
Yes.
and we probably gonna have to come on and do this again for time's sake. But talk about your book to me. Talk about your book that's and how people can get
Yes.
their hands on your book.
So I wrote a book, From Grief to Growth, a 31-day journey of healing and inspiration. You can go to drerickbrewer.com. You can order it through my website. It's also is on Amazon. You can order it through Amazon. I appreciate you go through the website, but Amazon, they're going to get their cut anyway.
Yes.
So, but anyway, I appreciate your support. And one thing I've learned is that you can grow from your grief.
Yes, you can.
And I just penned a chapter in superhero grief. I'm going to
All
close
right.
with this with men. And that our superheroes that we grew up reading the comics, their lives were transformed by the grief.
Mm,
Batman, he lost, his parents. Superman lost his parent, the planet. Um, Spider-Man lost Uncle Ben. And
mm-hmm,
you can look at all the major superheroes, their lives were transformed by their grief.
mm.
The thing I discovered in my own grief that you can grow from your grief. That
Wow.
God has taken my pain and given me a platform. And
Wow.
I didn't realize how strong I was until I went through what I went through.
Wow.
And so,
And
yes,
that is awesome right there. That's where I want to finish today's broadcast because all three of us have taken our pain and turned it into purpose.
Mm.
yes,
And all three of us grew through this experience. We took upon a whole another level of growth. And now, because of this, we are now being used to impact others through what we went through. And I am so excited that we finally made this connection on the
yes,
broadcast. Now, you all know that we're going to have to do this again. That's
absolutely.
without a doubt, because I want you to be able to go deeper into this process of helping men, because men grieve too. And that is so important for us to understand that men grieve too. And so you have information to get their books. Y'all see my book on the broadcast all the time. So I'm not going to even take this time to share on my book. But I am so blessed to have such capable and qualified men that shared with you on today. And trust me, we will get them back on our broadcast. I want you to stay tuned for our next broadcast. We might come back right back and deal with it then. I have to see where we're going. Normally, I announce to you what's coming next, but I really don't know this time. So you're going to have to tune in to our next broadcast. And remember, joy cometh. Be blessed.
Amen.
Amen.